Hey, howdy, hey everyone. I'm Caleb Abs, and welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. Today's topics: EQ, compression, and reverb. I've got pulled up here an example track. We're going to turn off all of these effects and we'll walk through what each of them does. Here's the raw track.
Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather. Kill the fatted calf tonight, so stick around.
Some of you might recognize that from the BDMC IU Dance Marathon stream. This is Benny and the Jets with Julia Rusiniak on lead vox. Incredible singer. Fantastic song. So the first thing that I like to add to any track is some good old EQ. What EQ does is it allows us to cut or boost certain bands of frequencies to change the tone of the audio signal. So over here in the low end, we've got around 30 is your punch of your bass drum. Around 100 is where the bass drum resonance is. From 100 to like 400-ish is where your bass guitar sits. Above that is vocals and other instruments. A little bit higher than that is your trumpets and higher instruments. And then above that is what I call sparkle. It's kind of like the sizzle from your cymbals or the s on your S's. So on this lead vox, I've cut some of the bass because I don't want to hear the bass drum. I've boosted a little bit in the lower area where Julia likes to sing sometimes. I've boosted quite a bit in just above where she is singing to kind of manipulate the tone to be a little bit brighter to match the rest of the room. And then I've given it a whole lot more sparkle. So with the EQ, it sounds like this.
Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather.
Without the EQ,
Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change.
both are absolutely fantastic, but if we put it in context with the rest of the band, you can hear that with the EQ, it matches the room just a little bit better.
Hey kids,
There's no
shake it
EQ.
loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather.
And then here's with EQ.
Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather.
Subtle, but important nonetheless. Now, it still doesn't sound exactly like she's in the same room, because if we listen especially to the keys with her,
Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change.
the keys have a little bit of echo to them. That echo is called reverb, and you manipulate that with a reverb plugin. Imagine that. So on the keys, I've got a pretty wet reverb. Room size is pretty big, which means how long the echo lasts. You know, the bigger the room, the more echo you're going to have. It's like going from a cathedral to your bedroom. Dampening doesn't do much. It changes a little bit of the way the frequencies bounce off the walls. A little bit of tone manipulation there. Just play with it and you'll hear it. Stereo width changes how far in each headphone it is. Initial delay is how long until the reverb starts. The low pass and high pass filters are how you manipulate what is being reverbed. So if I have high pass all the way down and low pass all the way up, that means that all the frequencies below 20,000 hertz are getting reverb, and all frequencies above 0 hertz are getting reverb, which is every frequency. Usually you don't want that, but you want a lot of it. You want a lot of the frequencies. So we cut just a little bit on each end to kind of give it that sound. So here's without reverb keys.
Hey kids, shake it loose.
And then here's with reverb. There's the echo. All right. So we want to match that reverb because that's a really nice piano sound. So we're going to manipulate this reverb until we get it right. So if I start all the way from the beginning, here's what I hear.
Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather.
The echo isn't as long. It doesn't have the right kind of delay to it, and it just doesn't sound quite right. So let's see if we can fix that a little bit. We'll start with a preset. What we've got is a live vocal, so we'll try that and see what happens.
Hey kids, take you loose together the spot.
That's better, but the room still sounds kind of small. And if you see here, you remember the number on the other one was in the 70s. This is a really small room size, so let's bump that up to get the echo to last a little longer.
Hey kids, take you loose together the spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather.
That's better, but I'm getting a little bit more echo than I am getting of the actual singing. So I'm going to move this slider for wet, which is the applied reverb signal. I'm going to move that fader down a little bit.
Hey kids, take you loose together the spot.
That was a bit too much because now I'm not getting enough of the echo. So let's bump that back up and bump the dry down just a pinch. It's a little loud.
Hey kids, take you loose together the spotlight's.
That's better. Let's bump the room size up just a little bit more.
Hey kids, take you loose together the spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather.
That's a little bit too much. Let's bump it back down. Bump the wet down just a pinch.
Hey kids, take you
That's
loose
about right.
together the spotlight's hitting.
So in context with the whole band.
Hey kids, take you loose together the spot.
Maybe bump the wet down just a pinch more.
Hey kids,
There we
take
go.
you loose together the spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather. Kill the fatted calf tonight, so stick around.
Yeah, there we go. That sounds nice. That's reverb. Now on to compression, my favorite of the plugins we're going to talk about today. A compressor is something that, when activated, will bump the audio signal down in volume. So if you give it a loud volume, it will take that volume and divide it by a certain ratio to make the volume quieter, which is really handy for making sure that everything stays at a consistent level while still maintaining some kind of dynamic variation. So if we look at this waveform here, close that, you can see that we've got a lot of peaks and we've got a lot of quieter peaks. She's singing for each of these, but they're different in volume.
Loose together.
And we want them to be a little bit closer together so that it sounds more similar to how you would experience listening to it live. So we're going to add compression. Now, the way that I work compression, let's start from the beginning, is I listen to the audio form and I watch this green bar, which is the threshold bar. The threshold bar controls when the compressor activates, at what volume do you want things to be cut. And we're going to look for when the loudest peaks are and go just a pinch below that.
Hey kid,
Oh, there we go.
hey kid, take you loose together the spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather.
It looks like it's peaking right about here, so we're going to bump it just a bit below that.
Hey kid, take you loose together.
Getting a good amount over here. Then we bump up the ratio, and what the ratio does is controls how much you turn the sound down. Now usually you don't want too much ratio, or else it'll turn the sound down too much, and you'll get the opposite effect, which is where the loud parts sound a lot quieter than the quiet parts, and then your quiet parts sound loud.
Hey kid, take you loose together the spotlight's hitting something.
You get a little bit of volume pumping, which creates a bit of listening fatigue, and you don't want that. So it's best if you can keep your ratios low. We're going to start with 1.5. Oh, that's the wrong button. And we'll see what that sounds like.
Hey kid, take you loose together the spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather. Kill the fatted calf tonight.
That's pretty close. I think we're still getting a little bit too much of the loud. So let's try 2.
Hey kid, take you loose together the spotlight's hitting.
Getting a little bit of pumping now, so let's try 1.7.
Hey kids, shake it loose together.
I think that's about right.
Something that's been known to change the weather.
Also on your compressor, you'll see low pass and high pass filters doing the exact same thing as they were doing on the Reverb plugin, which is that'll control what gets compressed. So we're going to bump the high pass filter up a little bit so that we stop getting the bass drum to activate the compressor.
Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather.
That's nice. The low pass is fine because I've added quite a bit of sparkle in the EQ, as we remember, and I do want that to be compressed as well. Another thing you'll see on the compressor is attack, and it's not very useful on lead vox to make it super long. You want it to be pretty short because you want it to compress quickly. If you bump the attack up, then it takes longer for the compressor to activate, which is really nice on a bass sound, on a bass guitar. So let's go take a look at that. We have Jack Waninger on bass here. And there's our compressor, and you can see I've got the attack bumped up just a pinch. So here's without compressor Jack's bass. That's pretty nice. So now we'll try with the compressor. It's got a little bit more punch to it, and what's causing that punch is this bump in volume with a quick-ish lowering in volume. So if we bump the attack up to 30, you'll hear that the bass sound is louder for longer. We bump the threshold down so that you can really emphasize it. Long attack, short attack. So we're going to put it back the way it was. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that's your compressors. And that concludes the Wednesday Wisdom. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you learned a little bit about compression, EQ, and reverb.
Hey kids, shake